In Magic the Gathering, preview season never ends. There's always a new set to begin spoiling, a new precon deck to post, a new product to purchase, one after another after yet another, until it begins to feel like an endless barrage. And by the way, that's not just a perception. We can look at actual data to show just how much the Magic the Gathering product machine has ramped up. Since we are returning to Innistrad this fall, I feel it is only fitting to compare 2021 to the year of Innistrad's original release. In 2011, excluding digital products, Magic the Gathering released 10 products, including the brand new Commander pre-constructed decks. If we were to break down those Commander decks, as well as each Magic set of that year, into its individual components, in other words, count each Commander deck as a separate product, count the various ways you could buy Mirrodin Besieged, New Phyrexia, M12, and Innistrad, i.e. Fat Pack, Intro Deck, Event Deck, etc., then by my math, we would have a total of 38 products that you could have bought in 2011. Again, this is if you bought one of every intro pack, one of every Commander Precon, etc. Compared to last year, 2020, excluding digital products, Magic the Gathering released 34 products, more than triple the 10 products released in 2011. If we were to break down 2020's products into its individual components, again, as if we were buying one of each set, bundle, commander deck, etc., there would have been a total of 67 products in 2020. Yes, that includes Secret Layers, of which there were 15. So far, in 2021, if we count what has been announced for the upcoming Dual Innistrad sets, we're at a total of 56 individual products. Keep in mind, the year is far from over, and I think it is fair to say we will at least meet the number of 2020, if not exceed it. So what's the problem here? After all, it's all selling. Each year Hasbro reports Wizards of the Coast is not just profitable, but extremely profitable. It's record sales and record earnings, so in other words, the product is selling. If it's selling, doesn't that mean it's successful? Doesn't that mean they should keep making it, keep producing it as long as we buy it? I don't know, if I started making drama-chasing, trashy videos that got views in the millions instead of just hundreds of thousands, would that mean I was producing successful videos? Would that mean I should keep making them? Now, I'm not saying Wizards of the Coast is making a trash product, but in this video, I would like to argue that it's maybe not as good, both in quality and overall enjoyment, as it used to be. And I will link that to this oversaturation of product, this constant preview season, this Magic the Gathering overload. But before we begin, a quick word about this video. This video is sponsored by Keeps, a subscription men's health brand for hair loss prevention. Magic the Gathering is a game you choose to play and have control over the way in which you enjoy it. But sometimes we don't have that kind of control over our body and appearance in the way that we'd like, especially when it comes to thinning hair and hair loss. That is where Keeps comes in. Keeps is the low-cost generic version of the only 2 FDA-approved hair loss products out there. You work with a licensed doctor via online consultations so that you can get the generic version of these medications. So that's Keeps. It's medication with a huge savings, and it's available for you should you want it. Best of all, Keeps is safe, secure, and easy with the medication delivered right to your door. There is nothing wrong with being bald or going bald. Wear yourself however you want. Present and appear as whoever you truly are. Keeps is just a tool that, for some of us, lets us have better control over an aspect of our appearance. Be it a full head of hair or none at all, you are sexy and gorgeous and a smoking hottie because that's just who you are. If you do happen to be ready to take action and prevent hair loss, go to keeps.com/Tolarian or click the link in the description to receive 50% off your first order. That's keeps.com/Tolarian. Keeps can help us shape ourselves as we choose and save a few dollars along the way. As always, with discussions such as these, I ask only that you acknowledge my claims, however much you may disagree with them, are nonetheless sincere and not motivated by anything other than a love for and opinion on this game. I will always strive to offer evidence for my inferences and conclusions. My argument is not that we have seen an incredible increase in Magic the Gathering products. That much is demonstrable. My argument is that this increase is having negative, as well as possible positive, effects upon the game. Let's start with the positives. The first positive is that it's making a lot of money. Yay, capitalism! Sorry, Spice 8 Rack, but the corporation making money is great. It means that our game is going to continue to be made, that funding and resources are available for both maintaining the game and expanding it. Even if you disagree with how the corporation is allocating all that money, at least it's available, and that goes a long way to ensuring the future of the game versus a company that is not making money and facing tough choices about how or even whether they can continue. Another positive is that by offering more products, Wizards of the Coast can cast a wider net in terms of the audience for those products. While every single product may not appeal to me and my needs as a player, them creating a giant plethora of products might increase the chances that a lot, not all, but a lot will indeed appeal to me. And it can be argued that with a smaller product line, there is less chance that everything is going to appeal to me versus a large product line. I've heard that particular argument a lot, and I do want to offer a counterpoint, which is that this is only true if there's a great variety of products, because if the increase is just them making more and more of what they already have, such as 15 commander decks versus 5, such as 3 different booster packs of the same set versus 1, general products versus specialty ones, then this argument is less valid. In that situation, it's something for everyone, if everyone plays Commander. Likewise, I feel the premise that more money means more expansion and growth for the game doesn't apply if those funds aren't being directed into needed areas. Look at those product charts again. Critical question: has R&D, has the departments that design all these products increased to match the output of the products? In other words, since they are making what is arguably, at least if not more than, twice as many products as they did in 2011, have they hired the appropriate amount of new WotC staff in those areas to match the new output demand? A few years ago, I actually asked several higher-ups at Wizards of the Coast that very question. I wanted to see if this was information that could be made public, and I was told, essentially, that for several reasons, it more or less could not be, and that's fair. Yet, even though there's no clear way for us to know, I cannot help but feel that staff probably needed to increase their output much more than staff itself was increased. Again, no way of knowing, but in the same way I doubt that WotC staff was given raises to match these record profits and their contributions as workers to those profits. That one's for you, Spice 8 Rack. I also doubt the company reinvested those profits into expanding game design significantly to match the growing demands. I guess a really good comparison is how Magic Arena was highly successful, and we can only imagine highly profitable, but where did those resources go? Were those profits at least somewhat put back into making the client better? Well, I see 800 new cards being programmed into Arena to be sold through a highly questionable consumer-unfriendly system, while the client itself still lacks resources to have basic things like a spectator mode, multiplayer capability, a functioning friends list that is anything more than a fractional implementation that was abandoned shortly after being tossed in, and so forth and so on. But Arena is another video. Let's stick to paper. And let's stick to the consumer experience, because honestly, I can't guess at WotC motives, nor do I really care. I'd like to focus on results, and specifically the results for me as a player and customer. The biggest one is that, ever since this explosion in product, I find myself more and more overwhelmed by constant releases, and less able to keep track of it all, which leads to confusion, apathy, and disinterest. Now, I drew a lot of reasonable and valid criticism for botching a few of my predictions for our return to Innistrad. Namely, that I made a few predictions that were already disproven or just flat out uninformed and wrong based on information that had already been made available about Crimson Vow and Midnight Hunt. I'm gonna own that. That was my screw up. I'm not trying to brush off responsibility. I absolutely should have double, triple checked the information available before making my predictions. But I do think it is somewhat telling that a highly enfranchised Magic the Gathering content creator who lives, sleeps, breathes MTG was still essentially utterly confused about key details of an upcoming Magic product, because the details of Magic products are constantly changing, and Magic products are constantly coming out, and it's hard to keep it all straight without doing extensive research. There are just so many products and so much going on that we are bombarded with frequent hour-long streams, dozens if not hundreds of blogs, videos, articles, tweets, posts, that I think it is very reasonable for the average player, and even enfranchised ones, to no longer feel confident in what exactly is going on at any given point. And even with all of those sources of information, Magic overload seems to result in more and more uninformed customers. What's happening in Magic's story, for example? Can you name the 10 realms of Kaldheim and their characteristics? You know, when original Ravnica and then later Return to Ravnica blocks came out, we spent an entire year on the plane, savoring the flavor of all 10 guilds to the point that most players today can recognize each of the 10 guild symbols, tell you the personalities, colors, leaders, and other details of each of the 10 guilds, and do so with the type of joyful obsession that makes devoted and engaged Magic the Gathering players. Yet, how many Magic players can tell you about Immerstrom and Notvold, what their colors and characteristics are? They came out this year, and yet I feel far fewer players could tell you about them than they could Izzet or Dimir. And before you argue, yeah, well, there have been many Ravnica sets, so it's more ingrained, I still bet you more people know about the Khans of Tarkir and the Shards of Alara, and both of those are old sets, and yet they had a lasting impact on the player base, whereas Kaldheim and most of the new sets coming out, well, literally within a week, previews start up again. We're rushing on to the next thing. There's no time for anything to resonate. Right after Kaldheim, we were already moving on to Strixhaven and Commander Precon previews. Sorry, no. After Kaldheim was 2 secret lair drops, which had been announced before Kaldheim, I think. Can you name the 2 secret lair drops that came out right after Kaldheim? And then it was Time Spiral Remastered, followed by, was it 4 or 5? Challenger decks, which when I made my video on the Challenger decks, I had overwhelming comments that people didn't even know they had been released. And I bet many of you watching right now didn't even know that Challenger decks were released this year, let alone are able to say what those decks were. And that was all this year. I've already talked about how no one knows what's in a promo pack anymore, and set and collector and even draft booster contents and breakdowns change somewhat with every set or so. We are about to have an extra set in Standard. Is that the new normal? Or is this a special standard with 1 extra set in it and then it's going to be the normal way? Or does it work a different way from now on? Kaldheim had 2 commander decks, but Strixhaven had 5, and D&D had 4. But each of the 2 Innistrad commander sets will have 2 commander decks with them, but those 2 decks for each set will not cost the same as the 2 for Kaldheim. Got it? And next year, who knows? People have found it easy to point at the time they released 17 different versions of Teferi, Master of Time, which came out in M21, but I'd argue most cards now have half a dozen or so, at least 2 to 4 versions, and all of this builds upon itself. It continues to be harder and harder to keep it all clear, let alone where and how you get the various versions. I do not think it is good for the game if players don't know for certain what is in a set versus a draft versus versus a collector versus a VIP booster pack, or even how many sets are coming out during a given period. Which ones are standard? When so many products are coming out, 15 Commander decks in 1 year, Double Masters and Commander Masters or Legends, and Jumpstart and Mystery Boosters all in 1 year, this year's Standard gets a full extra set. At a certain point, players are just gonna check out. Sales might be through the roof, but there is no way increased profits at this rate can possibly sustain themselves. And once it stops, once we stop buying, a huge factor will have been that it just reached the point where no one could follow it anymore and no one cared anymore, let alone could afford to keep up. And why should they? With organized play dismantled and a huge shift from the local game store to digital only, so much so that we're now adding digital only cards to Arena, video on that coming out soon, Kitchen Table Commander is more or less the only use for a lot of these new products. At the end of the day, there are a lot of ways to measure success, and profit is just one of them. Yes, these products are selling, for now. But if we take the attitude of, hey, come back when they stop selling and we'll deal with it then, it may be too late. I strongly believe the sales of today are tied greatly to the quality of yesterday, and that quality is sharply, noticeably diminished, which has grave implications for the sales of tomorrow. What we are seeing is essentially an emphasis on business efficiency above the player experience. All the things that made devoted and obsessed players seems to have been stripped away. Organized play, quality Magic story that mattered, world building that resonated, Friday night magic, promos you knew about and wanted to collect, sets you could collect without this explosion of half a dozen variants, product after product after product, until no one can keep up. The Magic the Gathering overload needs to be reined in. We need to feel confident and clear about this game. I should be able to tell someone what is in a collector booster, a promo pack, what is on the list, how many commander decks come out a year, and how much they will cost. I want worlds I can sink my teeth into, imagine myself a part of, stories I am invested in, game pieces prioritized over collectors' pieces, organized play to aspire towards, a history to build upon, a customer experience that is more than just perpetual hype with ever diminishing substance. But now I want to hear from you. You are, after all, the customer, and your voice is the most important. Do you feel overloaded or overwhelmed by Magic the Gathering products? Are you fatigued by too many sets, too many things that you have to buy, and not enough ways to play with them? Or do you have a completely different perspective? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks once again to Keeps for sponsoring this video. Remember, if you are ready to take action and prevent hair loss, go to keeps.com/Tolarian or click the link in the description to receive, 50% off your first order. That's KEEPS.com/Tolarian. Keeps, helping us shape ourselves as we choose.
I'm saying that they don't have a chance to win, but if someone has the nuts, that, oh, God.
All the nuts.
Has all the nuts.
Not just the nuts.
Has all
They got all
the
the
nuts.
nuts.